All right, everyone, welcome back to the 2016 Pokemon World Championships here in San Francisco, California. My name is Evan Latt, and it is a revolving door of co-casters over here as Aaron Zhang has swapped out for three-time world champion Ray Rizzo. Seems only appropriate as we get ready to introduce our next finalist.
Yeah, that last match between Wolfie and Marcus, that was such a hyped-up match because those were two great friends, two top players going at it. And, man, what a match. I'm so excited for Wolf, getting to see him in the finals with a chance at redemption. Of course, I was the one who knocked him out last time, so I'm certainly cheering for him, but even more so, I'm cheering for a really good match here, and I want to see a great finals, and especially, we've got a player here from Portugal. I believe Portugal, this is their first big performance here in the video game. I think they have had success in the trading card game previously, but in the video game, this could be a big mark for Portuguese players. Yeah,
nice to add that VGC trophy to the country trophy case as well. So should be a very exciting matchup. We do have Eduardo Cunha versus Jonathan Evans. Eduardo just coming off of a nail-biter of a set in his top 8 match, going down to the final second, and Jonathan also coming off of a 3-game, I believe, set to make it here into the top 4. Jonathan did have a talking to with the judges after that match and was issued a penalty, so we'll have to see if he's going to be able to stay focused on this next match and not let be dwelling on the last match and focus just on this match, which should be really great.
Yeah, but talking about this match, Eduardo, his last match was against Barris. That's a team that he will be facing in the finals if he wins. And we saw how he handled Barris's team, so he's got to be feeling confident. If he can win this game here, he will have a very good shot in the finals tomorrow, because this is a team that he's used to beating. He knows how to beat it. So as long as he can focus on this match right now, then he can advance to the finals and hopefully have a good team matchup heading into tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if he can do that, but first he has to get through this match. And I mean, Jonathan's been playing very well. This is our only dual primal player left in the game, in the tournament rather, up against Eduardo, who is our only Xerneas Groudon player left in these top 4 matches. I mean, who would have thought that there would only be one left at this point?
Yeah, definitely surprising, but again, there's, only 4 people left, so, odds are...
At most, there would be 4.
Right, so, at least there's one. It shows that this team is still extremely strong. And he's got that Trick Room portion of the team with the Bronzong, so he's got a lot of different modes. The Thundurus can spread paralysis if he doesn't want Trick Room up, and then Bronzong, of course, does have that Trick Room option, but you can hear the crowd, and there you see them. They're going wild.
They love Eduardo, and of course, you saw on his page very few accomplishments. He is able to add World's top 4 to that now, possibly finalist if he can take this set.
Yeah, that's why I'm really excited to see this. These are 2 players who really want it, and they're both kind of new to the world stage, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that pressure.
Yeah, so here is Jonathan Evans on your screen. You can see he has a few decent placings, top 16 at Nationals and top 8 at Regionals. Has been training over there in the United Kingdom, but no really big Worlds performances. This is, I believe, his first Worlds ever, and again, now in the top 4.
Yeah, so that's an incredible accomplishment for Jonathan. He's got to be feeling good. The way he performed earlier on stream, some of his matches, he made some great predictions, made some great plays, and I'm sure he's looking to kind of move that forward into this match here and just repeat what he's been doing this whole weekend.
All right, and a very interesting version of the dual primal team there. Common Pokemon like Bronzong and Talonflame, and then a few uncommon Pokemon like Gengar and Manectric.
Yeah, Mega Gengar has actually been, very common at the top today. We've seen a number of players utilizing that Shadow Tag that Gengar gets by Mega Evolving, especially when you've got Weather on your team like Kyogre, Groudon. It's a way to put yourself in a really good position. And then Manectric, that's another Intimidator if it does Mega Evolve, and Intimidate very valuable in this metagame. There's also the chance it has the move Volt Switch, which is something we saw on that Raichu on the teams from Barris, Marcus, and Wolf. It lets you get a little bit of damage off, but then switch in after you get to see what your opponent does. Maybe they went for a switch, so then you get to switch second and kind of evaluate the field as it stands, and then make your switch in based on that.
Yeah, and Mega Manectric is one of those Pokemon that we haven't been seeing very often, but maybe a pretty good fit on this dual primal core here.
Yeah, certainly it does get access to Thunder, so it can take advantage of the rain. Like I said, switching is always valuable. That's why in previous formats we always saw U-turn on Landorus. Being able to switch in and out with your Intimidate user, Manectric kind of functions the same way with its Intimidate and Volt Switch. So it's a very good Pokemon at supporting your team. It gives you flexibility, and it gives you the option to just look at what's going on the field and just kind of reevaluate and just set up and just change your position to be a favorable matchup.
And even potentially protect the Kyogre or some other Pokemon with that Lightning Rod ability if it chooses not to Mega Evolve.
Right.
Very interested in seeing how that Manectric will actually work here in game. And we are ready to get into game 1 of our final top 4 match. One of Eduardo, Cunha, or Jonathan Evans will be advancing to the finals, and this match will set the pace that these players will need to keep up with. Thundurus and Groudon out on the field for Eduardo, up against Jonathan's Gengar and Bronzong. So Gengar on the lead, Primal Groudon out on the field though for Eduardo.
Yeah, this is actually a really good matchup for Eduardo, I think, here, because he's the one kind of in control, exerting pressure here. Gengar and Bronzong don't really pose any kind of offensive threat here right now. Of course, Gengar doesn't really want to Mega Evolve because then it might take a Precipice Blades from Groudon, and that will knock it out because it would lose the Levitate ability. Bronzong, depending on whether it's Levitate or Heat Proof, that will determine what this Groudon wants to do, whether it wants to go for a Fire move or maybe a Precipice Blades. So it'll be really interesting, but of course, we know Eduardo's favorite move on Groudon, Substitute. That would be perfect right here because it's very unlikely that its Substitute would be broken this turn, and it would help it in future turns in case Jonathan were to eventually get his Kyogre in with some rain up. But right now, this is a perfect time to get a Substitute up, and meanwhile, Thundurus can do things like Thunder Wave the Gengar, maybe go for a Taunt. So there's a lot of options here for Eduardo. But I really like the Substitute play from his Groudon, and I have to imagine we'll see it here because that is his favorite move, as he said before.
Yeah, and it looks like Jonathan is feeling the pressure immediately, does have to switch out for his own Groudon, so Gengar has left, does not want to stick around against the Thundurus or the Groudon for Eduardo. Primal Groudon now out on the field, making that Substitute look even tastier. Looks like the Groudon will retreat, actually, on Eduardo's side, so does want to switch it up. Goes for the Kangaskhan instead, trying to get some fake-out pressure on the field now, instead of the Substitute. Thunder is actually just going on the offensive, going for a Thunderbolt on the Bronzong, dealing a little bit of damage, while Bronzong sets up the Trick Room.
That's a really interesting turn because I think setting up a Substitute would have been perfect there because even if Trick Room gets up, it's not like Bronzong can break that Substitute. It's not like Hypnosis can hit you. Meanwhile, you threaten a Precipice Blades there onto Groudon. That would have been perfect. And then Thundurus, maybe Eduardo knew that Bronzong may have a Mental Orb, so didn't want to go for a Taunt. Of course, don't want to go for a Thunder Wave on Bronzong because then, that's not really going to do anything unless you get that full paralysis. But of course, if it has Lumberry, that's a way to burn the Lumberry in case you have something to put a status onto Bronzong later in the match.
May also have been hoping to catch a Kyogre on the switch-in in case there was some ability to hit that Groudon in the rain, or at least just to take control of the weather there.
Yeah, either way, I just would have loved to see Groudon stay in, set up a Substitute. It would have been, really free. He had no risk of that Substitute getting broken. Couldn't have really been put in a bad position, so would have loved to see that, but...
Well, we are going to see another Hitmontop out on the field, the Intimidate being able to lower the threat of the Groudon and the Bronzong even with that Gyro Ball occasionally. Kangaskhan will go ahead and Mega Evolve here, probably looking to stall out some of these Trick Room turns with Fake Out. Yep, we'll go for the Fake Out onto the Groudon, no Protect coming out on Jonathan's side. So we'll take the flinch on Groudon. Bronzong going for the Skill Swap. So we'll Skill Swap the Parental Bond away from Kangaskhan and give it instead Levitate. So losing some power there, but at least now can't really be affected by that Groudon that much.
Yeah, I just have to imagine, though, what would have been the case if that Groudon would have gotten the Substitute up. Now, the Hitmontop, this is a good switch-in because you get the Intimidate on the Groudon. Of course, if it does have any special moves, moves like Eruption, maybe an Earth Power, there's a lot of different ways Groudon can still be effective if it does go for that special kind of variant. But Hitmontop, still a good switch, but you lose Parental Bond on Kangaskhan and give it to Bronzong. That is not good. Kangaskhan's damage output is now much, much lower.
Although we do have Trick Room up, it's possible that Hitmontop wants to switch in here. Can, of course, keep exerting that fake out pressure to stall out even more of this Trick Room, or could even just, be slower, aka faster than some of these Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. But again, Bronzong does have the option to Hypnosis. Of course, even if it goes for a Gyro Ball on Kangaskhan, that would do a lot of damage because of the Parental Bond. But instead, we do see it switch out into Gengar. This would be great if he is able to Mega Evolve and trap this Kangaskhan and Hitmontop in. I just don't expect Eduardo to let that happen.
Yeah, you can't imagine that they will be allowed to, that Jonathan will be allowed to trap both the Hitmontop and the Kangaskhan. However, that does mean that Eduardo would be forced to switch out here, which could mean Groudon dealing some significant damage.
Yeah, because Groudon, if it's got Precipice Blades, you have to imagine it will go for that. Try and catch a Groudon on the switch-in, because you don't want to leave both your Kangaskhan and Hitmontop in here. Gengar likely has Will-O-Wisp. It can burn both of them. Neither one can really touch Gengar, so you just trap them in. And then, Groudon's free to just do whatever it wants. And Kangaskhan, no Parental Bond.
Here.
I mean, you got to switch out at least Kangaskhan.
Yeah. I don't think you can risk switching out both of them to get that free Precipice Blades, but you do have Thundurus in the back, so Precipice Blades not going to hurt the Thundurus. No Gravity up yet, but actually, Jonathan will retreat the Groudon. So the Groudon off the field in favor of Kyogre. So Kyogre coming out on Jonathan's side. So does choose to sacrifice some offensive pressure, hoping to capture both of these Pokemon out on the field for Eduardo and start, using that Will-O-Wisp to get them away from being anything close to a threat for the rest of the team.
Yep, I'm sure the Groudon switch was because he fully expected these switches here, especially the Kangaskhan. So he wanted to bring in Kyogre to kind of have a favorable matchup on whatever comes in. However, it is Thundurus that does have a decent matchup against Kyogre, able to hit it super effectively. Yeah, so Thundurus out here, Gengar does Mega Evolve, so traps the Hitmontop in, which will be able to get off a close combat onto this Kyogre, dealing a little bit of damage there. Looks like that might even be a 4-hit KO, actually. Could be pretty close. Gengar going for the Hidden Power, actually, so Hidden Power onto that Thundurus, dealing just a little bit of damage there. Probably Hidden Power Water there. Yeah, you have to imagine it is in order to hit Groudons with that Kyogre switch-in. Certainly an interesting play there. Probably maybe expected a Groudon to come in instead of the Thundurus.
But Hidden Power Water does sort of explain why Eduardo was afraid to leave that Groudon out. Slower than the Gengar, may have taken a Hidden Power Water before it could set up that substitute, though.
Yeah, definitely. But, that little damage that Hitmontop did to Kyogre is kind of disappointing. I don't even know if a Thunderbolt from Thundurus would even take out the Kyogre at this point, because Kyogre has such massive special defense. Yep, well, Hitmontop Trick Room's still up, I believe, so Hitmontop may still be able to get an attack off before the Thundurus moves. Gengar does switch out for Groudon this time, so Groudon switching out. Looks like Kyogre opting not to use its Water-type attacks here. Groudon just taking the switch in, setting the Sun. Kyogre protecting this turn, so just going to stall this turn out a little bit, trying to get that Groudon in for free. Taunt from Thundurus will taunt the Groudon. On Jonathan's side, so Groudon does fall for the taunt. Close combat into the protect, and Trick Room has ended. Yeah, so this will be good for Thundurus if it is faster, because it can certainly hit that Kyogre super effective and do some pretty good damage there. Hitmontop maybe wants to switch out since it got that defense drop from close combat and reset the Intimidate for later. However, that is always risky, because you don't want to bring in Kangaskhan against a Groudon. That's always risky. Of course, your own Groudon, that's even riskier. So maybe you just sacrifice Hitmontop, let it stay in, maybe get a little bit of damage with close combat, and just, let it go down. It's always tough getting into situations like this